If you're interested in attending Catholic worship, come consider the 10 o'clock a.m. Mass at St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. We're located just 4 blocks up from Soldiers Field Road at 43 Holton Street. You can check out our website at stanthonyalston.org. That's saintanthonyalston.org. And come to the 10 o'clock Mass and experience our chanted Liturgy of the Eucharist every Sunday. Let us offer our consecration to the Lord. Lord, we offer up to you this day as we begin this new week in our last week of ordinary time prior to Lent. We ask that we may be filled with your Spirit and that we may glorify your name in all that we do in service to you. And we ask this through Christ our Lord. Well, welcome to the last week of ordinary time, last full week of ordinary time prior to Lent. This is the 5th week. Next week will be the 6th, but we're only celebrating Monday and Tuesday, and then we go right into Lent. So here we are looking at the 5th week of ordinary time, and we're going to begin with, our continuing, actually, in a sense, from the Book of Kings. We're looking at 1 Kings. This is also, today, is the memorial of Saint Agatha, who is one of the martyrs who are mentioned in the canon of the Mass, which is the first Eucharistic prayer. And so we're looking at this as our day, and we see 1 Kings 8, and what we're looking at is Solomon is calling the elders of Israel to bring the tabernacle into the new temple. Now, it's important to understand what we're talking about. It's just what I was talking about on Friday. It's important to understand, or actually last week, the key one was Wednesday. This place where the temple is the same place that is where the Dome of the Rock is right now. It's also where this first temple was, where the second temple was, that same place that was destroyed by the Romans in 70 AD. It's all this piece of real estate that is there that is the temple. This is, it's fascinating. You can turn around and say, well, there's nothing in the Bible that would affect me. A lot in the Bible affects you, even if you don't believe in God at all. And this piece of real estate, as the expression is one of the key elements that we find in the Bible, and it affects our politics today. So it's really fascinating that is all there. And so as we look at this piece of real estate and we look at its origins, we saw that originally last week when we saw that David had the ark under a tent, and he felt that he should build a house, and the Lord said, no, this is not the time. And now we see Solomon has built the house, which is the temple, and now we see that in this scene today is that the ark is brought into the temple for the very first time ever. And this becomes that key place. This is the same, well, it's not the same temple because there's a new temple by then, because the Babylonians end up destroying it. Then it's rebuilt by Cyrus the Persian. But this is the same concept. This is the second, it will be the second example of this, second manifestation of this that Zechariah is in when he encounters the angel Gabriel. So this temple is so key. It's also the place where Jesus encounters the presentation, which we celebrated last week. Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. It's also the place where Jesus is found when he's 12 years old, when he gets lost in the caravan by Mary and Joseph. So we see all of that going on from this same area. And so this is the key time. This is the first time ever the ark is brought into the temple. And I want you to notice something here. This is really fascinating. And I'm going to explain how. You may not recognize just how powerful this is. Okay, so we're in verse 7 of chapter 8 in the first book of Kings. Now, the temple is brought into, the ark is brought into the temple, and it is put under where there's a representation of cherubim with their wings spread out over the place of the ark. There weren't real cherubim that you could see there. There probably were, but you couldn't see them. But this is a representation of the cherubim that are over the ark. And so we see this great, powerful image of the cherubim. Now, you can understand that the cherubim were representations of angels. Have you ever seen it? Their wings are touching behind them, and then they're praying over the ark, and that's the symbol or the image of the cherubim. Now, why am I bringing that up? That is an image of what is considered holy. But there's a prohibition of making an image. Well, then how are at this point, the Hebrews, the Israelis, doing that if there's a prohibition? Because the prohibition is an image of God. That's why Catholics understand that we make images of saints, but we don't have any images of God, because you can't make an image of God, because what does God look like? Well, I don't know. There we go. Anyway, we're going to talk more on the other side of the break. You're listening to St. Anthony Overnight from St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. We'll be right back right after this. I have a suggestion for you. If you want to attend Mass here at St. Anthony Parish, remember you have an invitation to our 10 o'clock a.m. Mass every single Sunday. So come check us out. You have that standing invitation every single week. But, if you're going there and you say, well, I want to go to Mass, but I'm not sure I'm ready to contribute, but I don't want to look like I'm just sitting there. Not that anyone notices, but you may feel self-conscious there. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. Write the word radio down on a piece of paper and put that into the collection. That only goes for St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. It doesn't go for any other church or any other parish. But if you don't currently call a local parish home and you want to sit in on a Sunday Mass, this standing invitation is for you. Come on down to St. Anthony Parish, 43 Holton Street, Allston, Massachusetts, 02134. And remember, we are conveniently located just a stone's throw from Soldiers Field Road and the Mass Pike, but don't throw the stone. We're back, and we're talking about this powerful reading, but into the break, I was talking to you about that image of the cherubim. And a lot of people will criticize Catholics because we have statues in our church, which are nothing more than images of people that we want to remember who've gone before us, who we can look to as a model of someone who lived the faith. And we can look at that person as a model of someone who lived the faith and recognize that they were as human, and are as human, I guess we could say, as we are. And so therefore we realize that they had their strengths and they had their weaknesses. Even though we may look at even someone like St. Francis, I'll give you a classic example of one of his weaknesses. St. Francis was a person who was known as very loving. He would be someone who would try to lead sinners back to the faith and everything else. He was terrified of lepers. I don't know if you know that. And eventually that was something he was healed of at the end of his life. He was terrified of lepers. So, we can see these very strong strengths and weaknesses. And so that's why we have statues in the church. And people will say, you're not supposed to, it says there in the Bible, you're not supposed to have statues. Well, what do you call the image of the cherubim over the ark? It's the same idea. It's a representation of the cherubim. But what is prohibited is an image of God, because you can't make an image of God. If I make an image of God as like the sun god, but God is not the sun god. If I make an image of God like the water god, so to speak, and that's what God was prohibiting, because you had these images of gods in the pagan world, and God was saying, no, I'm not any of that, because God is outside of nature. He is literally supernatural, above nature, whereas all those gods would be within nature. And so that's why you can't have a representation of God. You just can't, because we don't have a full understanding of what God looks like, because God is Trinity, 3 persons in one God. We can have some representation to help us understand that concept, but there is no way to make a representation of God, because we don't fully understand God. And if we make a representation of God that we say that's exactly what God looks like, well, then we're wrong. So that's where the prohibition comes from. But you're perfectly able in the Bible to make images of those people who you are inspired by, seeking to live the Catholic faith, or if you're not Catholic, the Christian faith, and seek to follow and understand and look to an image of those people as people who lived a fully human life, just like you do, and inspire you to live a more holy life. So that's an important indication. So you can see that right there in 1 Kings 8, verse 7, where you, in 7 and following, where you can see this image of the cherubim. And you could say, well, how can you do that if you have a prohibition against an image in the temple? They must have had images. Yes, they did. But what would be prohibited would be making an image of God or any other so-called gods, because we don't believe in any of those. Remember, Israel at the time was, well, it's still today, but was monotheistic, and all the other cultures around them were polytheistic. They believed in many gods, but their understanding of God was different than our understanding of God. I'm talking about the pagans. So we look at that powerful reality and we understand what's being said there. We're going to talk more tomorrow. In the meantime, have yourself a blessed day. And remember, we are here at exactly the same time. You can also hear us on your favorite podcast platform. We'll see you then. I want to call your attention to Catholic TV, which offers great faith-filled, family-friendly programming 24 hours a day. You can find your cable channel at www.getcatholictv.com, and you can watch online on the free apps or check out the YouTube channel. Daily Mass, Rosaries, the Divine Mercy Chaplet, and the Our Lady of Perpetual Help Novena are all available online and on demand. Check out CatholicTV.com. Remember, when you're looking for a place to attend Mass, and if you don't already attend Mass at your local parish, come to St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts. We're located at 43 Holton Street in Allston, just a few blocks up from Soldiers Field Road. And you can check us out, come to our 10 o'clock a.m. Mass, and come to experience our Catholic worship at St. Anthony Parish in Allston, Massachusetts.